Hey, what is up guys? So I'm going to be showing you guys the new digital bugs in action. It's a new archetype that revolves around XYZing on top of XYZing. Not really a pendulum deck as far as now, but you know, you never know with Yu-Gi-Oh! Anything can get support for pendulums. Heck, Crystal Beast's got support for pendulums. But anyways, nonetheless, let's go and check out what they do. So, how they work is you basically want to be shifting things to defense mode or attack mode, and depending on what you're doing, you get to get rid of your opponent's target and obviously gain some extra advantage through that. Now, the deck is really early on. I'll give you guys like a brief deck profile of this one that was sent in by Deltos. Thanks, Deltos, by the way. I think the deck is still in the early phases. Like, it doesn't have all of its support yet, but we can kind of get a glimpse of what the deck can do in the future. And I think it's an okay deck. It's very interesting. I like things that are interesting. Like, you know how Infernoids are all about having no cards in hand. This deck is all about shifting things to defense position mostly. And you'll see that when you shift things to defense position with Core Beige, not only do you get to attach more material from your graveyard to Core Beige, which lets you then exceed and upgrade. I like this concept of upgrading the XYZs with not just throwing cards on top of cards, where it's you have to meet some type of condition. And this one is usually having the material, so it's the more material you have, the more XYZs that you can actually make on top of XYZ. So Core Beige is able to bounce back a thing that's in defense position, and also with that effect, when things go to defense position, you're also able to attach material, so you can upgrade this card into the final digital bug form. Well, as of right now, it's the final form. It's the Rhinoceros Beetle. Pretty cool stuff. They also have this card Bug Emergency, which I think is pretty cool. It lets you get back double cards, kind of I don't know if you want to call it a Gotham Z call, because you don't require anything from it. But it gets you back 2 level 3 insect monsters, which is basically the core setup of most of your plays. And then he finally actually busts out the boss monster over here, the digital bug Rhinoceros. So this is their main star player right here. So it requires 2 or more level 7 light insect monsters, which you're not going to get in this deck. It's basically you XYZ on top of XYZ. But it says you can special summon it by detaching 2 materials. So we'll get into all their effects later, but I just want to show you guys what the deck can do. And the other guy had noticed. I think this guy had noticed too. So it was a relatively decent duel. I don't think these are going to be super high tier as of right now, unless they get some crazy support, which can always happen. But anyways, I wanted to give you guys a deck profile for this deck so you guys can kind of see, and I'll explain more of the cards and what they do when we're taking a look at the deck profile. But anyways. So like I said, the deck wants to move things to defense position, so you'll see some of these cards over here that are changing battle position. There are a few other cards here. This is his deck profile, so I didn't make it, so I can't take credit for it, or I didn't actually build it. So I'm going to give you guys some other suggestions for some other cards. But anyways, first off, let's go ahead and just kind of check it out. We'll kind of just make some comments as we go along. So first off, Speedroid Menko. So when your opponent monster declares a direct attack, you can special summon it, and if you do, change all face-up monsters your opponent controls to defense position. So that can actually do 2 things. If you have anything that's going to proc its effect while things are getting shifted to defense position, obviously you'll be able to do whatever bonus effect that you get. But mostly it moves everything to defense position, and that really helps out with Core Beige, because Core Beige gets to bounce back things that are in defense position. And on top of that, as long as he's on board, if things switch their battle position, you get to attach an insect monster from a graveyard to it as material. So with that effect, obviously that's pretty decent. Next up, we have the Senti Bit. So it can't be used for an XYZ summon except for the XYZ summon of a insect type monster. So it's already got some downsides. But anyways, with this face-up attack position card is changed to defense position, you get to special summon 1 level 3 insect monster from your deck in defense position. And then an XYZ monster using this card on the field as material gains this effect, so it can attack all defense position monsters your opponent controls once each, which is actually kind of cool when we get to the next card that we'll be talking about later on after Galaxy Worm. But anyways, next up is Galaxy Worm. So this is the tour guide of the deck. You literally summon it, and as long as you control no other monsters while it's normal, you get to special summon 1 level 3 or lower Galaxy monster from your deck. Its effects are engaged, but it doesn't really matter because this card only gets its effect when it is normal summoned anyway. So this is straight up tour guide of the deck. Next up, going to the card Bachi Bachi Bachi. So an XYZ summon a monster that it gains uses this card's material gains this effect. So if it attacks the defense position, you get to inflict piercing battle damage. Going back to this card over here, you can attack everything once, and if it inflicts piercing, that's kind of cool. You can maybe do a bunch of damage, especially if maybe you run some random card that's like make everything 0 defense or something like that. It's just kind of crazy for OTKs. And there's also Verdant Sanctuary, so this gives you like, you know, targets for this. So that can be okay. I don't think this is the best card, but you know, there's not really that many cards I think that really support the digital bugs as of right now. I probably would have just played some extra traps in the deck. But I guess it's there. It is an insect. It is light, so these do require light and insect. So it's like really specific, and it's not that great as of right now. Again, guys, if they make like some crazy support for it, then obviously what I'm mentioning right now is irrelevant. But it's too conditional to have like a light insect. Like if you go to light insects and also are level 3, like let's go check it out. So we go to monsters. We go to effect. And then we got to go to light, and then they also have to be insect, and then they also have to be level 3. Like, your options are literally bocce, bocce, bocce. Like, it's pretty sad, but yeah, they really need some other support. It's kind of sad, but like I said, we are in the early stages, so I guarantee you guys these will get extra support, because there's no way you can make this deck viable. But anyways, we have the Web Soldier, Spider Rider over here. So it can't be used for an XYZ summon except for the XYZ summon of an insect monster, so all the downsides. Once per turn, you can target one face-up attack with a monster you control and change that monster to defense position. And if you do, special summon one level 3 insect monster from your hand in defense position, and then an XYZ monster using this card as material gains this effect. If XYZ summon, the defense of all face-up defense position monsters your opponent controls become 0, and if they do, change them to a defense position. Wow, that's pretty good. Going back to that combo right there, there we go. It makes everything 0. You can inflict piercing, and then you get to attack everything. So like, you can really see how you're trying to stack all of like these bonus XYZ effects. Because I remember people were playing one card that like increased some cards attack by like 1,000 or something like that. It's like if it's a war against like 1,000 or something like that, and you can do some like super awesome shenanigans with that kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool that you can use them, and they get like the bonus effects. But next up is the Cocoon Denser. So it can't be used for summon except for insect monster. And then if this card is in face-up attack position, you can target one level 3 insect monster in your graveyard, change this card to defense position, and then special summon it. So this is like your like, I don't know, Junk Synchron that gets back you like another card, but it's gonna get you back a level 3 one, and then you're gonna go in XYZ, of course, into this guy. But anyways, if it's used as material, it gains its effect. So if it attacks a defense position monster, your opponent can't activate anything until the end of the damage step. So there you go. That's how the deck wants to play. The deck wants to be like, oh, I can attack as many times as possible. You can't activate anything, and then I make all your defense 0, and then also in addition to that, I'm doing piercing. So it's just like that can get pretty dirty. Next up, he's playing 3 copies of Card Rotator, so you have to go -1 for this. So you summon a card from your hand to the graveyard, then you change the battle position of all monsters your opponent controls, face down defense position, or flip to face up attack position. So that can be used, and you can move everything to defense mode, make it so they have the ability to do piercing, and then you make them have, well, I guess this would technically make them being able to be attacked like once each, and like you can see how the combo works. And then there's 3 copies of MST. I recommend Twin Twister over this. It's just a much better card. Next up, the Crash Bug Road. So each player can special summon one monster from their hand with the same level as one face-up level 4 or lower monster they control. So it just lets you get out things a little bit faster, and obviously you can pull off your combos much faster because you're going to be able to add those specific materials that you need on board. Then there's 2 copies of Enemy Controller. It's a very versatile card. I like this card a lot. He's playing 1 copy of Verdant Sanctuary. So when a face-up insect monster you control is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, its controller can add 1 insect monster with their with the same level as the destroyed monster in their deck to their hand. So I mean, I guess that can help out with some things, but for the most part, it doesn't like special summon it immediately and give you a lot of advantage. So I don't know. I think it's okay. At one point, I think people were playing this card in Inzectors. Next up, he's playing 2 copies of Bug Matrix. Now, this one really lets you use a lot of your cards really fast. It lets you XYZ on top of XYZ, which is something we'll get into in just a moment. But all insect monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense. You can target 1 insect monster, XYZ monster you control, and attach 1 insect type monster from your hand to it as material. You can only use this effect once per turn. And we'll get into like how you basically can use that card. And then Bug Emergency, which is like the really good card where you get to bring back 2. You special summon them, and then like you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except insect monsters, so it doesn't really have a real downside for a second effect. But basically you get, let's just read the full effect actually. So you target 2 level 3 insect monsters in your graveyard, special summon them, their effects are negated, you can only activate 1 of them per turn. You can banish this card and one XYZ monster from your graveyard at the level of all level 3 insect monsters you currently control become equal to that banished monster's rank until the end of this turn. Also, you can special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except for insect monsters. So it has its downsides, but usually activate during your opponent's end phase anyways. Next up, we have Bottomless, Ring Destruction, 3 Solemn Notice, or Solemn Strike as it's called, and TCG, and then Solemn Warning. So let's go ahead and let me just show you guys all of the digital bug XYZs, because this is basically like what you guys are interested in. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen some of these cards, but I'll mouse over them real quick if you guys are interested in it. You don't really need to bust most of them out. Heck, most of the time you can't really make them because most of them have this effect where it's like cannot be used for XYZ summon except for an insect type monster, and there's not very many insects, as you guys know, in this game right now, especially when we're looking at like light insects. Like, dang dude, really limited right there. Anyway, so this is the first like little small monster that you bring out. So it's the Scaradator, or Scaradator. But anyways, 2 level 3 insect monsters. It's once per turn, during either player's turn, you detach 2 materials, and then you can target one monster your opponent controls, change that monster's battle position, and if you do, negate its effect until the end of the turn. Once per turn, if this when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle into the graveyard, attach that monster to this card as material. I really like that effect. It's good. It negates, it moves things, and then it can attack maybe over something. I mean, 18 is pretty low. But, you know, nonetheless, you get that extra boost maybe with this, you know, the little 300, so 21, 9 plus 10. Alright, so it's an okay card, but for the most part, I very rarely will ever get that effect off. When I was trying out the deck myself, the effect where you get to attach it as material, it ain't really happening. Next up is the core base, so I think you guys saw, well, in the duel you saw all of them being used. But core base over here, it requires 2 or more level 5 light insect type monsters, but again, you're not going to be using that to make it. So how you make it is you detach 2 materials from a rank 3 or 4 insect monster you control, then using that monster as material, and then basically you'll have this card with 1 material. And then its effect is that once per turn you detach a material from this card, you get to target something that's in defense position, and then you get to return that monster to its owner's deck, which is obviously really good. And then once per turn, when a monster changes its battle position, you get to target insect monster in your graveyard and attach it to this card as material. So usually, when you go into this, if you go straight into this, obviously when you detach, you're going to be able to have that card in the graveyard, then you get to reattach it to this. And then if you want to, you could technically upgrade it into the digital bug Rhinoceros. So Rhinoceros is, in my opinion, the best as of right now. He's the boss monster. So he requires 2 level 7 light monsters, but again, you're not going to use that. You detach 2 materials from a rank 5 or 6, so obviously this card, perfect example for that. And then if this card attacks a defensive position monster, you get to do inflict piercing damage, and then once per turn during either player's turn, you can attach 1 material from this card to destroy the monster with the highest defense tied, if it's tied to your choice. So you get to pop a monster. It's an okay effect. It's got decent attack, it's got piercing, and if you combo it right with some cards, yeah, of course, you can OTK your opponent. But I find the deck to be lackluster as of right now. I feel like they definitely going to get more support, because, I mean, look at the support right here. We have, in the main deck of the actual deck, we're looking at, like, what, like 6 cards? Well, there's like 6 cards in this deck, and it's kind of sad, because I really like this concept of like XYZing on top of XYZing, not for free. Like, I like the idea of is that all? Well, I guess this card technically is like, you definitely want to be playing that, but at the same time, like, it's not really meant for the archetype. But if we're looking at the archetype, that's 5 cards as an archetype, they'll definitely get more support. At least that's how I feel. I mean, I guess if you count this, that's 8. But like in the main deck, that's not enough to make a deck on its own. And I feel like, yeah, they just need some more support. I'm really hoping that they'll come out with some other really cool digital bugs, because I like this idea of, like I said, XYZ on top of XYZ. As long as it's not like, oh, throw Gaia Charger on it for free, because I don't really like that concept. I like the concept of, like, you have to do something, and like with this, you got to move things to defense position, then you get attach material, and then you get it to go for your card. And it's not one of those decks where you just spam the field instantly with like 20 different monsters. It's not Pendulum, and so I kind of like those kind of decks that don't necessarily smudge summon a bunch of monsters in one turn with like little cost. I like playing Synchro, but that's a topic for another day. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you know of any other good combos or way to play this deck, I would like to know, because when I was building it myself, I didn't put Bachi in there, but there's really limited options on what you can play as far as the deck now. But a lot of you guys wanted me to show off the deck. I tried to get some replays, but the replays just crashed on DevPro, but apparently now it works on YGO Pro. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Your boy Will Smith, signing out.